where we shall witness exchange of several agreements and MOUs. These documents reflect the wide-ranging, multifaceted bilateral cooperation as part of the India-EU strategic partnership. We will begin with the signing and exchange of political declaration on conclusion of negotiations of the India-EU Free Trade Agreement. This document will be signed by His Excellency Mr. Maros Sefcovic, European Commissioner for Trade and Economic Security, and Shri Piyush Goyal, Minister of Commerce and Industry of India. The next document to be signed is the India-EU Security and Defence Partnership. This document will be signed by Her Excellency Ms. Kaya Kallas, High Representative for Foreign Affairs and Security Policy and the Vice President of the European Commission, and Dr. S. Jaishankar, External Affairs Minister of India. We now have the signing of the Comprehensive Framework on Cooperation on Mobility. This document will be signed by His Excellency Mr. Maros Sefcovic, European Commissioner for Trade and Economic Security, and Dr. S. Jaishankar, External Affairs Minister of India. A few documents will now be exchanged. The administrative arrangement on cooperation and disaster risk management will be exchanged between His Excellency Mr. Harvey Delphin, EU Ambassador to India, and Shri Vikram Misri, Foreign Secretary of India. The agreement on constitution of a green hydrogen task force will be exchanged between His Excellency Mr. Harvey Delphin, EU Ambassador to India, and Shri C.B. George, Secretary West in the Ministry of External Affairs. Lastly, two documents, namely the MOU between the Reserve Bank of India and the European Securities and Market Authority, and the administrative arrangement on advanced electronic seals and signatures, will be exchanged between His Excellency Mr. Harvey Delphin, EU Ambassador to India, and Shri Saurabh Kumar, Ambassador of India in Brussels. that India and the European Union have agreed on a strategy document titled Towards 2030, a joint India-European Union comprehensive strategic agenda. I now request the spokesperson of the Ministry of External Affairs to conduct the rest of the proceedings.
Good afternoon, His Excellency Mr. Antonio Costa, President of the European Council, and Her Excellency Ms. Ursula von der Leyen, President of the European Commission, Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi, Honorable Ministers, members of our delegations, distinguished guests, and friends from media. We will now have press statements. May I request Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi to give his remarks to the media.
Your Excellency, President Antonio Costa, our President
and President Ursula
von der
Leyen,
दोनों देशों के
delegates
डेलीगेट्स,
from both countries,
मीडिया के साथियों,
friends from the media,
नमस्कार।
namaskar.
अपने दो
It
करीबी
gives
मित्रों,
me immense
प्रेसिडेंट
pleasure
कोस्टा
to welcome my two
और
close friends,
प्रेसिडेंट
President
von der Leyen
Costa
का
and President von der Leyen,
इस
to
अभूतपूर्व भारत
this
यात्रा में
unprecedented
स्वागत करते हुए
visit to
मुझे बहुत
India.
खुशी हो रही है। कोस्टा जी अपनी सरल
President
जीवन शैली
Costa
और समाज के
is
प्रति
known for his simple lifestyle
प्रेम के
and
आधार
his
पर
affection for the people, and
लिस्बन
that
के
is
गांधी
why
के नाम
he
से
is
जाने
often
जाते हैं।
known as the Gandhi of
और
Lisbon.
उर्सुला जी
And President von der Leyen
जर्मनी की
is
पहली
not
महिला रक्षा
only
मंत्री
the
नहीं,
first defense minister of
यूरोपियन यूनियन
Germany,
कमीशन की भी
she is an
पहली महिला
inspiration
प्रेसिडेंट
for the
बनकर
entire world
पूरी दुनिया
as
के
the
लिए एक
first
प्रेरणा
female
है।
president of the European Union
कल
Commission.
एक
Yesterday
ऐतिहासिक क्षण था
was a historic moment
जब पहली बार
when, for the first time
यूरोपियन
ever,
यूनियन के
leaders
लीडर्स
of the European Union
भारत के
took
गणतंत्र
part
दिवस समारोह
in
में
India's Republic Day
मुख्य
celebrations
अतिथि के रूप में
as
शामिल
chief
हुए।
guests.
आज
And today,
एक और
it is
ऐतिहासिक अवसर
one
है
more historic moment when
जब विश्व की
the two
दो
largest
सबसे बड़ी
democratic
लोकतांत्रिक
powers
शक्तियां
of the world
अपने
are
संबंधों
adding
में
a
एक
decisive
निर्णायक
chapter
अध्याय जोड़
to
रही
their
है।
relations.
फ्रेंड्स,
Friends,
पिछले कुछ वर्षों
over the
में
last few years,
भारत
there
और
has
यूरोपियन
been
यूनियन के संबंधों
remarkable
में
progress in
उल्लेखनीय प्रगति
India
हुई
and
है।
European Union relations
साझा
based
लोकतांत्रिक
on
मूल्यों,
shared democratic values,
आर्थिक सिनर्जी
economic synergy,
और मजबूत
and strong
पीपल टू
people-to-people
पीपल टाइज के
ties,
आधार पर हमारी
our
साझेदारी
partnership
नई
has
ऊंचाइयों
touched
तक पहुंच
new
रही है।
heights.
आज हमारे
Today,
बीच
we
180
have
बिलियन यूरो का ट्रेड है।
180 billion euro trade between
8
us.
लाख से अधिक
Over
भारतीय
800,000
यूरोपियन
Indians
यूनियन के
live
देशों में रह
in the
रहे हैं
countries of the European
और सक्रिय
Union
योगदान दे
and
रहे हैं।
are actively
हमने
contributing to
स्ट्रेटेजिक
it.
टेक्नोलॉजी से लेकर
From strategic
clean
technologies to clean energy,
डिजिटल गवर्नेंस से
from
लेकर
digital governance
डेवलपमेंट
to
पार्टनरशिप,
development partnerships,
हर
we
क्षेत्र में
have added new dimensions
सहयोग के
of
नए
cooperation
आयाम
in
स्थापित किए
all
हैं।
areas.
इन्हीं
And
उपलब्धियों के
it is
आधार पर
based on these very
आज की
achievements
समिट में हमने
that at the summit
समाज
today,
के सभी
we
वर्गों को
have
लाभ
taken
पहुंचाने
several
वाले
decisions
कई
that
निर्णय
will
लिए।
benefit all sections of society.
आज भारत ने
Friends, today
अपने
India
इतिहास का
has
अब तक
concluded
का
the
सबसे
largest
बड़ा
ever
फ्री
free
ट्रेड
trade
एग्रीमेंट
agreement
संपन्न
in
किया है।
its history.
आज
And
27 तारीख है।
today is the
ये सुखद
27th.
संयोग है
It is indeed a
कि
happy
आज ही के दिन
coincidence that
यूरोपियन
this
यूनियन के
FTA
27 देशों के
that
साथ
we have
भारत ये एफटीए कर रहा है।
an FTA
यह
which is
एक
with 27 countries of the
ऐतिहासिक
European
समझौता
Union
हमारे
on
किसानों,
the 27th of this month.
हमारे
This
छोटे
historic
उद्योगों,
agreement
इसके
will
यूरोपियन
make
मार्केट
access
तक
to the
पहुंच
European
आसान बनाएगा,
markets easier for our farmers and
मैन्युफैक्चरिंग
small
में नए
businesses,
अवसर पैदा
which will
करेगा
create new
और
opportunities
हमारे
in
सर्विसेज सेक्टर
manufacturing
के बीच
and will
सहयोग
further
को
strengthen
और
cooperation
प्रबल करेगा।
between our service sectors.
इतना ही नहीं,
And Not
यह
just
एफटीए
this FTA
भारत और
will boost
यूरोपियन यूनियन के
investment
बीच
between India
इन्वेस्टमेंट को बूस्ट
and
करेगा,
the European Union.
नई
It will
इनोवेशन
help
पार्टनरशिप
forge
बनाएगा
new innovation
और वैश्विक
partnerships
स्तर पर
and will
सप्लाई चेन को
strengthen supply
मजबूत
chains
करेगा।
at a global level.
यानी यह
This
सिर्फ
means that
ट्रेड
this
एग्रीमेंट
is
नहीं
not
है,
just a trade
यह
agreement. It is
साझा
a new
समृद्धि का
blueprint
नया
for
ब्लूप्रिंट
shared
है।
prosperity.
फ्रेंड्स, इस महत्वाकांक्षी
Friends,
एफटीए के साथ
Along
साथ
with this ambitious
हम मोबिलिटी के
FTA,
लिए भी
we are also
एक
creating
नया
a new
फ्रेमवर्क बना
framework
रहे
for
हैं।
mobility.
इससे भारत के
This
स्टूडेंट्स,
will create
वर्कर्स
new
और
opportunities for
प्रोफेशनल्स
Indian
के लिए
students, workers,
यूरोपियन
and
यूनियन में नए
professionals
अवसर
in the
खुलेंगे।
European Union.
साइंस एंड
With
टेक्नोलॉजी में
respect to science and
हमारा
technology,
लंबे समय से
we have had
एक व्यापक
extensive
सहयोग रहा।
cooperation between us for a long
आज
time.
हमने
Today,
इन महत्वपूर्ण
we
लिंकेजेस को
have
भी
taken a decision
और
to
मजबूत करने का
further
निर्णय
strengthen
लिया।
these important linkages
Friends,
as well.
रक्षा
Friends,
और सुरक्षा सहयोग
Defense and
किसी
security
भी स्ट्रेटेजिक
cooperation
पार्टनरशिप की
forms
नींव
the
होती है।
basis of any
और आज
strategic
हम इसे
partnership. And today,
सिक्योरिटी एंड डिफेंस
we are
पार्टनरशिप के जरिए
formalizing it
औपचारिक
through a
रूप दे रहे हैं।
security and defense
इससे
partnership.
काउंटर टेररिज्म
This will further
Maritime
deepen our
और
partnership
साइबर
in the
सिक्योरिटी में
areas of
हमारी
counterterrorism,
साझेदारी
maritime
और
and
गहरी
cyber
होगी।
security.
यह रूल्स बेस्ड
It
इंटरनेशनल
will
ऑर्डर के प्रति
also strengthen
हमारी साझा
our
प्रतिबद्धता को
shared
भी
commitment
बल
to
देगा।
a rules-based
इंडो पैसिफिक
international
क्षेत्र में
order. It will
हमारे
enable
सहयोग
us
का दायरा
to
और
expand
बढ़ेगा।
the scope of our
और इसके
cooperation
साथ
in the Indo-Pacific region.
हमारी डिफेंस
And
कंपनी
it will also
को
create
डेवलपमेंट
new
और
opportunities
को प्रोडक्शन
for
के नए अवसर
co-development and
साकार करेगी।
co-production for our defense companies.
आज की
Friends,
इन उपलब्धियों के आधार
Building
पर
on our
हम
achievements
अगले
today,
5 वर्ष के लिए
we are launching
एक
an
और भी
even
एम्बिशियस
more
और
ambitious
होलिस्टिक
and
स्ट्रेटेजिक एजेंडा
holistic strategic
launch कर रहे हैं।
agenda for the next 5
एक
years.
जटिल वैश्विक
In a
वातावरण में
complex global
ये एजेंडा
environment, this
स्पष्ट
agenda
दिशा
will
देगा,
give us a clear direction.
हमारी साझा समृद्धि को आगे
It
बढ़ाएगा,
will take forward our
Innovation को
shared
गति देगा,
prosperity. It will give an impetus
सुरक्षा
to
सहयोग और
innovation,
सुदृढ़ करेगा
strengthen our
और
security
पीपल टू पीपल टाइज
cooperation,
को
and
और गहरा
further
करेगा।
deepen our people-to-people
Friend,
ties.
भारत
Friends,
और यूरोपियन यूनियन का सहयोग
cooperation between India and the
एक
European
partnership
Union
फॉर
is
ग्लोबल
a
गुड है।
partnership for global good.
हम इंडो पैसिफिक से लेकर
We will
कैरेबियन
extend
तक
our trilateral
ट्राइलेटरल प्रोजेक्ट को
development
विस्तार देंगे।
projects from the Indo-Pacific to
इससे
the Caribbean.
सस्टेनेबल एग्रीकल्चर,
These will give concrete support
क्लीन
to
एनर्जी
sustainable
और
agriculture,
विमेन एम्पावरमेंट
clean
को
energy,
ठोस समर्थन
and
मिलेगा।
women empowerment.
हम साथ मिलकर
We will together
आईमैक कॉरिडोर को
establish the
ग्लोबल
IMEC
ट्रेड
corridor
और
as
सस्टेनेबल
an
डेवलपमेंट की एक
important
प्रमुख
link
कड़ी के
for
रूप में
global trade and
स्थापित
sustainable development.
फ्रेंड्स,
Friends,
आज ग्लोबल ऑर्डर
we
में
are seeing
बड़ी
a
उथल
lot
पुथल
of turmoil today
ऐसे में
in the global order.
भारत और
At such a
यूरोपियन
time,
यूनियन की
The
साझेदारी
partnership between India
अंतर्राष्ट्रीय
and the
सिस्टम में
European Union
स्थिरता
will
को
strengthen stability
मजबूती
in
देगी।
international systems.
इस संदर्भ में
In this regard,
आज हमने
we
यूक्रेन,
have had extensive
पश्चिमी
discussions
एशिया,
today on various global
Indo-Pacific
issues, including
सहित
Ukraine,
कई
West
वैश्विक
Asia,
मुद्दों पर विस्तार से
and
चर्चा
the
की।
Indo-Pacific.
मल्टीलेटरलिज्म
Respect
और
for
इंटरनेशनल नॉर्म्स का सम्मान
multilateralism and international
हमारी
norms
साझी
is
प्राथमिकता है।
our shared priority.
हम एक मत
We
हैं
agree
कि आज के
that
चैलेंजेस का
for
समाधान
addressing
करने के लिए
today's global challenges,
ग्लोबल इंस्टीट्यूशंस
reforms
का
are
रिफॉर्म
essential in
अनिवार्य।
global institutions.
फ्रेंड्स,
Friends,
राष्ट्रों के संबंधों
there
में
comes a time
कभी कभी
in
ऐसा
the
क्षण आता है
relations between
जब
countries
इतिहास
when
स्वयं
history
कहता है
itself tells us
यहीं से
this
दिशा बदली,
was the turning point.
यहीं से
This
एक
was the
नया
moment
युग शुरू
when
हुआ।
the relationship took a new
भारत
direction,
की
when a new
आज
era
भारत
began.
की और यूरोपियन यूनियन की
Today's historic
यह
summit
ऐतिहासिक समिट
marks
वही क्षण है।
that turning point
मैं एक बार फिर
in the relations
इस
between
अभूतपूर्व
India and
यात्रा के
the
लिए
European Union. I
भारत के
convey
प्रति
my grateful
आपकी
thanks
मित्रता
to
के
you
लिए
once again,
और हमारे
President
साझा
Costa
भविष्य के
and
प्रति
President von der Leyen, for
आपकी
this
प्रतिबद्धता के लिए
unprecedented visit, for your
प्रेसिडेंट
friendship
कोस्टा
towards India,
और
and
प्रेसिडेंट
for your
von der Leyen का
commitment to
हार्दिक
our
धन्यवाद
shared
करता हूं।
future.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. May I now request His Excellency, Mr. Antonio Costa, President of the European Council, to give his remarks to the media.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi, my dear friends, dear Ursula, ministers, dear Kaya and Maros, good afternoon. Thank you, dear Prime Minister Modi, for welcoming us on this special occasion. We were privileged yesterday to be your chief guests for the Republic Day celebrations. Such an impressive display of India's capabilities and diversity. Today is a historic moment. We are opening a new chapter in our relations on trade, on security, on people-to-people ties. I'm the president of the European Council, but I'm also an overseas Indian citizen. Then, as you can imagine, for me, it has a special meaning. I'm very proud of my roots in Goa, where my father's family came from. And the connection between Europe and India is something personal to me. Also because we conclude today our trade negotiations. We relaunched at the leaders' meeting that I had the pleasure to host in May 2021 in my previous capacity. Our summit sends a clear message to the world. At a time when the global order is being fundamentally reshaped, the European Union and India stand together as a strategic and reliable partners. Today, we are taking our partnership to the next level. As the two largest democracies in the world, we are working hand in hand to deliver concrete benefits for our citizens and to shape a resilient global order that underpins peace and stability, economic growth, and sustainable development. I would like to share three messages. First, the European Union and India must work together towards our shared prosperity and security. India is the world's fastest growing major economy. Trade has flowed between our two continents for centuries. And trade is a crucial geopolitical stabilizer and the fundamental source of economic growth. Trade agreements reinforce rules-based economic order and promote shared prosperity. That's why today's free trade agreement is of historic importance. One of the most ambitious agreements ever concluded, creating a market of 2 billion people. In a multipolar world, the European Union and India are working together to grow spheres of shared prosperity. But prosperity does not exist without security. Strengthen our cooperation to better protect our citizens and our shared interests. Working together to counter the full range of security threats we face in the Indo-Pacific, in Europe, and around the world, reaching a new level of strategic trust between us. That is the significance of our agreement on a security and defense partnership. The first such overarching defense and security framework between India and the European Union, and the first step towards even more ambitious cooperation in the future. This brings me to my second message. As the world's largest democracies and champions of multilateralism, the European Union and India share the responsibility to upholding the international law with the United Nations Charter at its core. Earlier this morning, we and Ursula and President Ursula had the opportunity to pay tribute to Mahatma Gandhi. And I reflected upon his words, which still holds true today. And I quoted, "Peace will not come out of a clash of arms, but out of justice lived and done by unarmed nations in the face of odds." Our summit reaffirmed our commitment to supporting efforts towards a comprehensive, just and lasting peace in Ukraine, one that fully respects Ukraine's independence, sovereignty, and territorial integrity. This is a key moment. We are supporting all efforts to reach a just and sustainable peace. Ukraine has shown its readiness, including at the cost of difficult compromise. I know, dear Prime Minister, that we can count on you to help creating conditions for peace through dialogue and diplomacy. And this is my final message. Together, we must show leadership on global issues. Cooperation between the European Union and India will help shape a more balanced, resilient, and inclusive global order. Just two examples. I'm proud of the commitments we are making for greater cooperation on clean energy, green transition, and climate resilience. And our collaboration through the Global Gateway and on the India-Middle East-Europe Economic Corridor is decisive for global connectivity. By implementing the ambitious joint comprehensive strategic agenda towards 2030, we will align our priorities with concrete actions for the next 5 years, delivering real benefits to our citizens. Today, we have tangible progress and set an example of cooperative leadership on global issues with our free trade agreement, our security and defense partnership, and our joint strategic agenda. These outcomes are crucial milestones on the longer path. We look forward to continuing the journey together, as always. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. May I now request Her Excellency Ms. Ursula von der Leyen, President of the European Commission, to give her remarks to the media.
Dear Prime Minister Modi, distinguished friend, Antonio, my friend, ministers, especially Shankar and Guyal, Vice President Kallas, Commissioner Šefčovič, Excellencies, friends, thank you very much for the exceptional hospitality we experienced. It was such an honor for us to be your chief guests at the Republic Day yesterday. This is a memory I will carry for a lifetime, because the sense of communion was so powerful. People filled the streets united in pride and joy of belonging to the Indian nation, and rightfully so. India has risen, and Europe is truly glad about it, because when India succeeds, the world is more stable, more prosperous, and more secure, and we all benefit. Prime Minister Modi, dear friend, 1 year ago, the full College of Commissioners came to India. You mentioned it. And this is also a very special memory for me. It showed the seriousness of our intent and the strength of our commitment. Today, we reap the fruits of that commitment with our historic summit. And let me start with trade. Prime Minister, distinguished friend, we did it. We delivered the mother of all deals. We are creating a market of 2 billion people. And this is the tale of two giants, the world's second and fourth largest economies. Two giants who choose partnership in a true win-win fashion. A strong message that cooperation is the best answer to global challenges. This trade will integrate further our supply chain and strengthen our joint manufacturing power. It will cut up to 4 billion euros in annual tariffs for exporters of all sizes. And it will create good jobs for millions of workers here in India and in Europe. At the same time, this agreement will build on the natural complementarity of our economies. It brings together Indian skills, services, and scale with Europe's technology, capital, and innovation. It will create levels of growth that neither side can achieve alone. And by combining these strengths, we reduce strategic dependencies at a time when trade is increasingly weaponized. We will discuss this and more at our first EU-India Business Forum later today. I want to offer a special word of thanks to the people who worked so hard to make this day a reality. Starting with the European Union's Trade Commissioner Maroš Šefčovič and his counterpart, India's Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal. You have done an outstanding work. This is historic, and it would not have been possible without you. I also want to pay tribute to their colleagues, Sabine Weyand and Secretary Rajesh Agrawal. Many others made vital contributions. I congratulate you all. The hard work was worth it. Prime Minister, distinguished friend, we're not only making our economy stronger, we are also delivering security for our people in an increasingly insecure world. And today, the world's two largest economies and democracies launch their first ever security and defense partnership. This is a landmark departure and a trust-based platform for cooperation on the strategic issues that matter most. In doing so, we will help to build each other's resilience. Europe and India have a long history of cooperation in the defense industry. Now we will enhance this teamwork even further. We will deepen our cooperation on maritime security, for example, joint naval exercises to tackle piracy. And we will step up our work on countering cyber and hybrid threats, which are getting more sophisticated by the day. And our partnership includes a dedicated dialogue on space security, from situational awareness to secure connectivity, and stronger cooperation on counterterrorism. Finally, we are launching negotiations on a security of information agreement. Europe and India have chosen to be reliable partners to one another, and this is how we demonstrate the trust we share. Prime Minister Modi, distinguished friend, I want to turn to innovation, because here too we share core values. The freedom of research and science is paramount for us. Europe and India will always choose science. We will always choose progress, the way forward. We will always choose technology at the service of our people. It's part of who we are. And our cooperation on human-centric, trustworthy artificial intelligence is one of the best examples. So today I'm glad to announce that we are working on India's association with Horizon Europe. Backed by funding firepower of 100 billion euros, Horizon is the world's largest public research program. And I can't wait for our best talents to get to work to advance health, clean energy, frontier technologies, just to name some. We will set up EU-India innovation hubs. This will help researchers and startups to collaborate on next generation technology. And we are also launching the EU-India Startup Partnership to boost co-creation and high potential ventures. Finally, Prime Minister Dear Narendra, we both know our greatest wealth are our people. That is why I'm so glad that we are signing an agreement on mobility. We will facilitate the movement of students, researchers, seasonal and highly skilled workers. And this is also why we are launching the first EU legal gateway office in India. It will be a one-stop hub to support Indian talent moving to Europe in full alignment with EU member states' needs and policies. This is good for our economies. This is good for the friendship between our people. And this openness benefits us all. As we conclude this 16th summit, let me reflect on another event of deep meaning. 2 weeks ago, India marked Makar Sankranti. It's the beginning of Uttarayan, the sun's northward journey. From darkness to light, from stillness to growth, from what was to what can be. And that is what makes our summit so unique and timely. The time is right for renewal, for fresh momentum, and for opening a new chapter in EU-India friendship. And this is exactly what we have achieved together today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we conclude the press statements. Thank you very much for your presence.
His Excellency Mr. Antonio Costa, President of the European Council. Her Excellency Ms. Ursula von der Leyen, President of the European Commission. Shri Narendra Modi, Prime Minister of the Republic of Bharat. Honorable Ministers, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I welcome you all to this ceremony where we shall witness exchange of several agreements and MOUs. These documents reflect the wide-ranging, multifaceted bilateral cooperation as part of the India-EU strategic partnership. We will begin with the signing and exchange of political declaration on conclusion of negotiations of the India-EU Free Trade Agreement. This document will be signed by His Excellency Mr. Maros Sefcovic, European Commissioner for Trade and Economic Security, and Shri Piyush Goyal, Minister of Commerce and Industry of India. next document to be signed is the India-EU Security and Defense Partnership. This document will be signed by Her Excellency Ms. Kaya Kallas, High Representative for Foreign Affairs and Security Policy and the Vice President of the European Commission, and Dr. S. Jaishankar, External Affairs Minister of India. We now have the signing of the Comprehensive Framework on Cooperation on Mobility. This document will be signed by His Excellency Mr. Maros Sefcovic, European Commissioner for Trade and Economic Security, and Dr. S. Jaishankar, External Affairs Minister of India. A few documents will now be exchanged. The administrative arrangement on cooperation and disaster risk management will be exchanged between His Excellency Mr. Harvey Delphin, EU Ambassador to India, and Sri Vikram Misri, Foreign Secretary of India. The agreement on constitution of a green hydrogen task force will be exchanged between His Excellency Mr. Harvey Delphin, EU Ambassador to India, and Sri C.B. George, Secretary West and the Ministry of External Affairs. Lastly, two documents, namely the MOU between the Reserve Bank of India and the European Securities and Market Authority, and the administrative arrangement on advanced electronic seals and signatures, will be exchanged between His Excellency Mr. Harvey Delphin, EU Ambassador to India, and Sri Saurabh Kumar, Ambassador of India in Brussels. Before I conclude this segment on exchange ceremony, I would also like to announce that India and the European Union have agreed on a strategy document titled Towards 2030, a joint India-European Union Comprehensive Strategic Agenda. I now request the spokesperson of the Ministry of External Affairs to conduct the rest of the proceedings.
Good afternoon, His Excellency Mr. Antonio Costa, President of the European Council, and Her Excellency Ms. Ursula von der Leyen, President of the European Commission, Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi, Honorable Ministers, members of both delegations, distinguished guests, and friends from the media. We will now have press statements. May I request Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi to give his remarks to the media.
Your Excellency, President Antonio Costa, our President
and President
Ursula
Ursula
von der
von der Leyen,
दोनों देशों के
delegates
डेलीगेट्स,
from both countries,
मीडिया के साथियों,
friends from the media,
नमस्कार।
namaskar.
अपने दो
It
करीबी
gives
मित्रों
me immense
प्रेसिडेंट
pleasure
कोस्टा
to welcome my two
और
close friends,
प्रेसिडेंट फोन
President
डेर लाइन
Costa
का
and President von der Leyen,
इस
to
अभूतपूर्व
this
भारत यात्रा में
unprecedented
स्वागत करते
visit
हुए
to
मुझे बहुत
India.
खुशी हो रही है। कोस्टा जी अपनी सरल
President
जीवन शैली
Costa
और समाज के
is known
प्रति
for his simple lifestyle
प्रेम के
and his
आधार पर
affection for the people, and
लिस्बन
that
के
is
गांधी
why
के नाम
he
से
is
जाने
often
जाते हैं।
known as the Gandhi
और
of Lisbon.
उर्सुला जी
And President von der Leyen
जर्मनी की
is
पहली
not
महिला रक्षा
only
मंत्री
the
नहीं,
first defense minister of
यूरोपियन यूनियन
Germany,
कमीशन की
she
भी
is an
पहली महिला
inspiration
प्रेसिडेंट
for the
बनकर
entire world
पूरी
as
दुनिया
the
के लिए एक
first
प्रेरणा
female
है।
president of the European Union
कल
Commission.
एक
Yesterday
ऐतिहासिक क्षण था
was a historic moment
जब पहली बार
when, for the first time
यूरोपियन
ever,
यूनियन के
leaders
लीडर्स
of the European Union
भारत के
took
गणतंत्र
part
दिवस समारोह
in
में
India's Republic Day
मुख्य
celebrations
अतिथि के रूप में
as
शामिल
chief
हुए।
guests.
आज
And today,
एक और
it is
ऐतिहासिक अवसर
one
है
more historic moment when
जब विश्व की
the two
दो
largest
सबसे बड़ी
democratic
लोकतांत्रिक
powers
शक्तियां
of the world
अपने
are
संबंधों में
a
एक
decisive
निर्णायक
chapter
अध्याय जोड़
to
रही
their
है।
relations.
फ्रेंड,
Friends,
पिछले कुछ वर्षों
over the
में
last few years,
भारत
there
और
has
यूरोपियन
been
यूनियन के संबंधों
remarkable
में
progress in
उल्लेखनीय
India
प्रगति हुई
and
है।
European Union relations
साझा
based
लोकतांत्रिक
on
मूल्यों,
shared democratic values,
आर्थिक सिनर्जी
economic synergy,
और मजबूत
strong
पीपल टू
people
पीपल
to people
टाइज के
ties,
आधार पर हमारी
our
साझेदारी
partnership
नई
has
ऊंचाइयों
touched
तक पहुंच
new
रही है।
heights.
आज हमारे
Today,
बीच
we have
180 बिलियन यूरो का ट्रेड है।
180 billion euro trade between
8
us.
लाख से अधिक
Over
भारतीय
800,000
यूरोपियन
Indians
यूनियन के
live
देशों में रह
in the
रहे हैं
countries of the European
और सक्रिय
Union
योगदान दे
and
रहे हैं।
are actively contributing
हमने
to
स्ट्रेटेजिक
it,
टेक्नोलॉजी से लेकर
from strategic
clean
technologies to clean energy,
डिजिटल गवर्नेंस से
from
लेकर
digital governance
डेवलपमेंट
to
पार्टनरशिप
development partnership.
हर
We
क्षेत्र में
have added new dimensions
सहयोग के
of
नए
cooperation
आयाम
in
स्थापित किए
all
हैं।
areas.
इन्हीं
And
उपलब्धियों के
it is
आधार पर
based on these very
आज की
achievements
समिट में हमने
that at the summit
समाज
today,
के सभी
we
वर्गों को
have
लाभ
taken
पहुंचाने
several
वाले
decisions
कई
that
निर्णय
will
लिए।
benefit all sections of society.
आज भारत ने
Friends, today
अपने
India
इतिहास का
has
अब तक
concluded
का
the
सबसे
largest
बड़ा
ever
फ्री
free
ट्रेड
trade
एग्रीमेंट
agreement
संपन्न
in
किया।
its history.
आज
And
27 तारीख है।
today is the
ये सुखद
27th.
संयोग है
It is indeed a
कि
happy
आज ही के दिन
coincidence that
यूरोपियन
This
यूनियन के
FTA
27 देशों के
that
साथ
we have
भारत ये एफटीए कर रहा है।
an FTA
यह
which is
एक
with 27 countries of the
ऐतिहासिक
European
समझौता
Union
हमारे
on
किसानों,
the 27th of this month.
हमारे
This
छोटे
historic
उद्योगों,
agreement
इसके
will
यूरोपियन
make
मार्केट
access
तक
to the
पहुंच
European
आसान बनाएगा,
markets easier for our farmers and
मैन्युफैक्चरिंग
small
में नए
businesses,
अवसर पैदा
which will
करेगा
create new
और
opportunities
हमारे
in
सर्विसेज सेक्टर
manufacturing
के बीच
and will
सहयोग
further
को
strengthen
और
cooperation
प्रबल करेगा।
between our service sectors.
इतना ही नहीं,
And not
यह
just
एफटीए
this FTA
भारत और
will boost
यूरोपियन यूनियन के
investment
बीच
between India
इन्वेस्टमेंट को बूस्ट
and
करेगा,
the European Union,
नई
will
इनोवेशन
help
पार्टनरशिप
forge
बनाएगा
new innovation
और
partnerships
वैश्विक स्तर पर
and will
सप्लाई चेन को
strengthen supply
मजबूत
chains
करेगा।
at a global level.
यानी यह
This
सिर्फ
means that
ट्रेड
this
एग्रीमेंट
is
नहीं
not
है,
just a trade
यह
agreement. It is
साझा
a new
समृद्धि का
blueprint
नया
for
ब्लूप्रिंट
shared
है।
prosperity.
फ्रेंड, इस महत्वाकांक्षी
Friends,
एफटीए के साथ
Along
साथ
with this ambitious
हम मोबिलिटी
FTA,
के लिए भी
we are also
एक
creating
नया
a new
framework बना
framework
रहे
for
हैं।
mobility.
इससे भारत के
This
स्टूडेंट्स,
will create
वर्कर्स
new opportunities
और
for
प्रोफेशनल्स के
Indian
लिए
students, workers,
यूरोपियन
and
यूनियन में नए
professionals
अवसर
in the
खुलेंगे।
European Union.
साइंस एंड
With
टेक्नोलॉजी में
respect to science and
हमारा
technology,
लंबे समय से
we have had
एक व्यापक
extensive
सहयोग रहा।
cooperation between us for a long
आज
time.
हमने
Today,
इन महत्वपूर्ण
we
लिंकेजेस को
have
भी
taken a decision
और
to
मजबूत करने का
further
निर्णय
strengthen
लिया।
these important linkages
Friends,
as well.
रक्षा और सुरक्षा सहयोग
defense and
किसी
security
भी स्ट्रेटेजिक
cooperation
पार्टनरशिप की
forms
नींव
the
होती है
basis of any
और आज
strategic
हम इसे
partnership. And today,
सिक्योरिटी एंड डिफेंस
we are
पार्टनरशिप के जरिए
formalizing it
औपचारिक
through a
रूप दे रहे हैं
security and defense
इससे
partnership.
काउंटर टेररिज्म
This will further
Maritime
deepen our
और
partnership
साइबर
in the
सिक्योरिटी में
areas of
हमारी
counterterrorism,
साझेदारी
maritime,
और
and
गहरी
cyber
होगी।
security.
यह रूल्स बेस्ड
It
इंटरनेशनल
will
ऑर्डर के प्रति
also strengthen
हमारी साझा
our
प्रतिबद्धता को
shared
भी
commitment
बल
to
देगा
a rules-based
इंडो पैसिफिक
international
क्षेत्र
order.
में
It will
हमारे
enable
सहयोग
us
का दायरा
to
और
expand
बढ़ेगा
the scope of our
और इसके
cooperation
साथ
in the Indo-Pacific region.
हमारी डिफेंस
And
कंपनी
it will also
को
create
डेवलपमेंट
new
और
opportunities
को प्रोडक्शन
for
के नए अवसर
co-development and
साकार करेगा
co-production for our defense companies.
आज की इन
Friends,
उपलब्धियों के आधार
Building
पर
on our
हम
achievements
अगले
today,
5 वर्ष के लिए
we are launching
एक
an
और भी
even
एम्बिशियस
more
और
ambitious
होलिस्टिक
and
स्ट्रेटेजिक एजेंडा
holistic strategic
launch कर रहे हैं।
agenda for the next 5
एक
years.
जटिल वैश्विक
In a
वातावरण में
complex global
ये एजेंडा
environment, this
स्पष्ट
agenda
दिशा
will
देगा
give us a clear direction.
हमारी साझा समृद्धि को आगे
It
बढ़ाएगा
will take forward our
Innovation को
shared
गति देगा,
prosperity. It will give an impetus to
सुरक्षा सहयोग और
innovation,
सुदृढ़ करेगा
strengthen our
और
security
पीपल टू पीपल टाइज
cooperation,
को
and
और गहरा
further
करेगा
deepen our people-to-people
Friend,
ties.
भारत और यूरोपियन यूनियन का सहयोग
Cooperation between India and the
एक
European
partnership
Union
फॉर
is
ग्लोबल
a
गुड है
partnership for global good.
हम इंडो पैसिफिक से लेकर
We will
कैरेबियन
extend
तक
our trilateral
ट्राइलेटरल प्रोजेक्ट को
development
विस्तार देंगे
projects from the Indo-Pacific to the
इससे
Caribbean.
सस्टेनेबल एग्रीकल्चर
These will give concrete support
Clean
to
energy
sustainable
और
agriculture,
विमेन एम्पावरमेंट
clean
को
energy,
ठोस समर्थन
and
मिले
women empowerment.
हम साथ मिलकर
We will together
आईमैक कॉरिडोर को
establish the
ग्लोबल
IMEC
ट्रेड
corridor
और
as
सस्टेनेबल
an
डेवलपमेंट की एक
important
प्रमुख
link
कड़ी के
for
रूप
global
में
trade and
स्थापित
sustainable development.
फ्रेंड्स
Friends,
आज ग्लोबल ऑर्डर
we
में
are seeing
बड़ी
a
उथल
lot
पुथल
of turmoil today
ऐसे में
in the global order.
भारत और
At such a
यूरोपियन
time,
यूनियन की
The
साझेदारी
partnership between India
अंतर्राष्ट्रीय
and the
सिस्टम में
European Union
स्थिरता को
will strengthen stability
मजबूती
in
देगी।
international systems.
इस संदर्भ में
In this regard,
आज हमने
we
यूक्रेन
have had extensive
पश्चिमी
discussions
एशिया,
today on various global
Indo-Pacific
issues, including
सहित
Ukraine
कई
West
वैश्विक
Asia
मुद्दों पर विस्तार से
and
चर्चा
the Indo-Pacific.
मल्टीलेटरलिज्म
Respect
और
for
इंटरनेशनल नॉर्म्स का सम्मान
multilateralism and international
हमारी
norms
साझी
is
प्राथमिकता है
our shared priority.
हम एक वक्त
We
हैं
agree
कि आज के
that
चैलेंजेस का
for
समाधान
addressing
करने के लिए
today's global challenges,
ग्लोबल इंस्टीट्यूशंस
reforms
का
are
रिफॉर्म
essential in
अनिवार्य है।
global institutions.
फ्रेंड्स
Friends,
राष्ट्रों के संबंधों
there
में
comes a time
कभी कभी
in
ऐसा
the
क्षण आता है
relations between
जब
countries
इतिहास
when
स्वयं
history
कहता है
itself tells us
यहीं से
this
दिशा बदली
was the turning point.
यहीं से
This was
एक
the
नया
moment
युग शुरू
when
हुआ
the relationship took a new
भारत
direction,
की
when a new
आज
era
भारत
began.
उर्सुला फॉन डेर लाइन, दोनों देशों के डेलीगेट्स, मीडिया के साथियों, नमस्कार। अपने दो करीबी मित्रों प्रेसिडेंट कोस्टा और प्रेसिडेंट फॉन डेर लाइन का इस अभूतपूर्व भारत यात्रा में स्वागत करते हुए मुझे बहुत खुशी हो रही है। कोस्टा जी अपनी सरल जीवन शैली और समाज के प्रति प्रेम के आधार पर लिस्बन के गांधी के नाम से जाने जाते हैं और उर्सुला जी जर्मनी की पहली महिला रक्षा मंत्री नहीं, यूरोपियन यूनियन कमीशन की भी पहली महिला प्रेसिडेंट बनकर पूरी दुनिया के लिए एक प्रेरणा है। कल एक ऐतिहासिक क्षण था जब पहली बार यूरोपियन यूनियन के लीडर्स भारत के गणतंत्र दिवस समारोह में मुख्य अतिथि के रूप में शामिल हुए। आज एक और ऐतिहासिक अवसर है जब विश्व की दो सबसे बड़ी लोकतांत्रिक शक्तियां अपने संबंधों में एक निर्णायक अध्याय जोड़ रही है। फ्रेंड्स, पिछले कुछ वर्षों में भारत और यूरोपियन यूनियन के संबंधों में उल्लेखनीय प्रगति हुई है। साझा लोकतांत्रिक मूल्यों, आर्थिक सिनर्जी और मजबूत पीपल टू पीपल टाइज के आधार पर हमारी साझेदारी नई ऊंचाइयों तक पहुंच रही है। आज हमारे बीच 180 बिलियन यूरो का ट्रेड है। 8 लाख से अधिक भारतीय यूरोपियन यूनियन के देशों में रह रहे हैं और सक्रिय योगदान दे रहे हैं। हमने स्ट्रेटेजिक टेक्नोलॉजी से लेकर क्लीन एनर्जी, डिजिटल गवर्नेंस से लेकर डेवलपमेंट पार्टनरशिप, हर क्षेत्र में सहयोग के नए आयाम स्थापित किए हैं। इन्हीं उपलब्धियों के आधार पर आज की समिट में हमने समाज के सभी वर्गों को लाभ पहुंचाने वाले कई निर्णय लिए हैं। फ्रेंड्स, आज भारत ने अपने इतिहास का अब तक का सबसे बड़ा फ्री ट्रेड एग्रीमेंट संपन्न किया है। आज 27 तारीख है। ये सुखद संयोग है कि आज ही के दिन यूरोपियन यूनियन के 27 देशों के साथ भारत ये एफटीए कर रहा है। यह एक ऐतिहासिक समझौता हमारे किसानों, हमारे छोटे उद्योगों, इसके यूरोपियन मार्केट तक पहुंच आसान बनाएगा, मैन्युफैक्चरिंग में नए अवसर पैदा करेगा और हमारे सर्विसेज सेक्टर के बीच सहयोग को और प्रबल करेगा। इतना ही नहीं, यह एफटीए भारत और यूरोपियन यूनियन के बीच इन्वेस्टमेंट को बूस्ट करेगा, नई इनोवेशन पार्टनरशिप बनाएगा और वैश्विक स्तर पर सप्लाई चेन को मजबूत करेगा। यानी यह सिर्फ ट्रेड एग्रीमेंट नहीं है, यह साझा समृद्धि का नया ब्लूप्रिंट है। फ्रेंड्स, इस महत्वाकांक्षी एफटीए के साथ साथ हम मोबिलिटी के लिए भी एक नया फ्रेमवर्क बना रहे हैं। इससे भारत के स्टूडेंट्स, वर्कर्स और प्रोफेशनल्स के लिए यूरोपियन यूनियन में नए अवसर खुलेंगे। साइंस एंड टेक्नोलॉजी में हमारा लंबे समय से एक व्यापक सहयोग रहा है। आज हमने इन महत्वपूर्ण लिंकेजेस को भी और मजबूत करने का निर्णय लिया है। फ्रेंड्स, रक्षा और सुरक्षा सहयोग किसी भी स्ट्रेटेजिक पार्टनरशिप की नींव होती है और आज हम इसे सिक्योरिटी एंड डिफेंस पार्टनरशिप के जरिए औपचारिक रूप दे रहे हैं। इससे काउंटर टेररिज्म, मैरीटाइम और साइबर सिक्योरिटी में हमारी साझेदारी और गहरी होगी। यह रूल्स बेस्ड इंटरनेशनल ऑर्डर के प्रति हमारी साझा प्रतिबद्धता को भी बल देगा। इंडो पैसिफिक क्षेत्र में हमारे सहयोग का दायरा और बढ़ेगा और इसके साथ हमारी डिफेंस कंपनियां को डेवलपमेंट और को प्रोडक्शन के नए अवसर साकार करेगी। फ्रेंड्स, आज की इन उपलब्धियों के आधार पर हम अगले 5 वर्ष के लिए एक और भी एम्बिशियस और होलिस्टिक स्ट्रेटेजिक एजेंडा लॉन्च कर रहे हैं। एक जटिल वैश्विक वातावरण में ये एजेंडा स्पष्ट दिशा देगा, हमारी साझा समृद्धि को आगे बढ़ाएगा, इनोवेशन को गति देगा, सुरक्षा सहयोग और सुदृढ़ करेगा और पीपल टू पीपल टाइज को और गहरा करेगा। फ्रेंड, भारत और यूरोपियन यूनियन का सहयोग एक पार्टनरशिप फॉर ग्लोबल गुड है। हम इंडो पैसिफिक से लेकर कैरेबियन तक ट्राइलेटरल प्रोजेक्ट को विस्तार देंगे। इससे सस्टेनेबल एग्रीकल्चर, क्लीन एनर्जी और विमेन एम्पावरमेंट को ठोस समर्थन मिलेगा। हम साथ मिलकर आईमैक कॉरिडोर को ग्लोबल ट्रेड और सस्टेनेबल डेवलपमेंट की एक प्रमुख कड़ी के रूप में स्थापित करेंगे। फ्रेंड्स, आज ग्लोबल ऑर्डर में बड़ी उथल-पुथल है। ऐसे में भारत और यूरोपियन यूनियन की साझेदारी अंतर्राष्ट्रीय सिस्टम में स्थिरता को मजबूती देगी। इस संदर्भ में आज हमने यूक्रेन, पश्चिमी एशिया, इंडो पैसिफिक सहित कई वैश्विक मुद्दों पर विस्तार से चर्चा की। मल्टीलेटरलिज्म और इंटरनेशनल नॉर्म्स का सम्मान हमारी साझी प्राथमिकता है। हम एकमत है कि आज के चैलेंजेस का समाधान करने के लिए ग्लोबल इंस्टीट्यूशंस का रिफॉर्म अनिवार्य है। फ्रेंड, राष्ट्रों के संबंधों में कभी-कभी ऐसा क्षण आता है जब इतिहास स्वयं कहता है, यहीं से दिशा बदली, यहीं से एक नया युग शुरू हुआ। भारत की और यूरोपियन यूनियन की यह ऐतिहासिक समिट वही क्षण है। मैं एक बार फिर इस अभूतपूर्व यात्रा के लिए, भारत के प्रति आपकी मित्रता के लिए और हमारे साझा भविष्य के प्रति आपकी प्रतिबद्धता के लिए प्रेसिडेंट कोस्टा और प्रेसिडेंट फॉन डेर लायन का हार्दिक धन्यवाद करता हूं। थैंक यू।
Thank you, sir. Request His Excellency, Mr. Antonio Costa, President of the European Council, to give his remarks to the media.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi, my dear friends, dear Ursula, ministers, dear Skaya and Maros, good afternoon. Thank you, dear Prime Minister Modi, for welcoming us on this special occasion. We were privileged yesterday to be your chief guests for the Republic Day celebrations. Such an impressive display of India's capabilities and diversity. Today is a historic moment. We are opening a new chapter in our relations on trade, on security, on people-to-people ties. I'm the president of the European Council, but I'm also an overseas Indian citizen. Then, as you can imagine, for me, it has a special meaning. I'm very proud of my roots in Goa, where my father's family came from. And the connection between Europe and India is something personal to me. Also because we conclude today our trade negotiations. We relaunched at the latest meeting that I had the pleasure to host in May 2021 in my previous capacity. Our summit sends a clear message to the world. At a time when the global order is being fundamentally reshaped, the European Union and India stand together as a strategic and reliable partners. Today, we are taking our partnership to the next level. As the two largest democracies in the world,
the UK, India, Australia, these countries are now beginning to realize we need to start diversifying both our supply side as well as our demand side. And this is the biggest example of it. Like I said, it's the biggest free trade agreement that any set of two countries or a block of countries have signed. And I think it will really sort of send a message that India is open for business, Europe is open for business. Like I said, we're still awaiting the nitty-gritties, the fine print in terms of, you know, how much our auto duty is going to come down by. What about like wine and spirits, meats, again, is a big sort of export for Europe. Also, the agri and dairy space, which had become a bit of a point of contention in the negotiations, whether that's been kept out or whether they've included some agri and dairy products. All of these will be part of the fine print. But I think the signaling, the messaging is absolutely unequivocal that if certain countries are going to get protectionist and going to impose all kinds of tariff barriers and non-tariff barriers, then India and Europe are going the other way. They are upholding the global trading order. They are playing by WTO rules, and they are playing by making the world a more equitable sort of trading playing field, if you will, for all parties concerned.
Razaka, you mentioned about how the fine print is still awaited, but earlier as well, when it is about Indian exports that were going into the European Union, there was a steep compliance burden, and that had dissuaded a lot of people, particularly from the food, chemical sector, even the engineering goods, and that export was impacted. During your course of conversation with, let's say, an Antonio Costa, what was your assessment? Do you think these differences have been able to be ironed out?
Yeah, so I asked him about the question around CBAM's, Carbon Border Adjusted Mechanism, which is basically an equivalent of a carbon tax, particularly for the sort of highly polluting sectors, whether it's steel, cement, aluminum, etc. The European Union has imposed a certain carbon tax, and that, of course, was a concern for Indian exporters. So what he said to me yesterday in the interview was, I think it's important that India recognizes, despite the fact that India has 40% of the world's coal reserves, India is willing to put its money where its mouth is when it comes to green technologies, when it comes to more sustainable forms of development. And I think he did underscore that, yes, the CBAM issue is being taken care of. Again, like I said, we're awaiting the fine print on, you know, how they've addressed that concern, particularly for Indian exporters on cement, on aluminum, on steel, etc. I also want to underline, you know, some of the other sectors that will benefit include, you know, gems and jewelry, fisheries and shrimp exports. Also, you know, when you talk about footwear and leather, and of course, the biggest one, the biggest contribution in that small scale sector would be for textiles and garments. These are all labor intensive sectors. Anywhere between 15 to 20% of exports in these sectors go to Europe. They were also very dependent on the American market. And at a time when there is a great degree of uncertainty there in that trading relationship, I think Europe opening up for India with, you know, near zero duties on these products, whether it's footwear and leather, gems and jewelry, and shrimp exports, etc., would actually open up a huge market for Indian exporters. These are labor-intensive sectors, you know, places like Tirupur, Ludhiana, Surat, etc. There'll be a huge sort of heaving a sigh of relief, if you will, given that this FTA has now been concluded and been signed.
Well, absolutely. Do stay on with us, Zaka. We also have Akanksha Swaroop joining us from the Hyderabad house. Akanksha, one key aspect is, of course, the $4 billion tariff cut. That is one of the cornerstones, other than defense cooperation, from this particular FTA that India has signed with the European Union. And that was part of this address by Ms. von der Leyen when she concluded that speech of hers, addressing the media, talking about how important this particular deal with India really has become.
Absolutely. I am at the Anatha Center, where the EU High Representative for Foreign Affairs, Ms. Callas, will be arriving in some time from now. But as you rightly highlighted, it is the EU President herself making that big announcement about how there is going to be a reduction when it comes to 4 billion euros of tariffs. And that means you're expecting cheaper European goods in the Indian market. And also, Indian exports to be increasing in the European markets as well. And the word coming in is that you could expect a reduction of, say, 110% duty, which was charged on European car makers like Volkswagen, even Renault. They all have been reduced from 110% to 10%. That's like 100% reduction, Griha. That is the word that we are catching in on. Zaka very rightly highlighted that there's also going to be focus on gems and jewelry, protection, the protecting of interests of our own agricultural sector, also MSMEs, and the prime agrarian concerns were something that we have not been able to reach upon an agreement when it comes to the BTA with the United States, is because they are looking towards dumping their own agricultural products in the Indian markets. But that the word coming in from the Commerce Ministry is that that will not be a concern for the Indian farmers. In fact, Indian farmers could look towards adding to exports when it comes to seafood, particularly shrimps, cuttlefish, and even prawns. You could also expect an increase in rice exports from India, even tea, coffee, fruits, and vegetables. Yes, Europe will be looking towards increasing its own imports when it comes to wines and spirits. You could expect a reduction when it comes to tariffs on wines and spirits. They could get cheaper now. Even an increase in, say, imports of European cheese. There also, we are being told that there will be an increase in import of Gouda cheese, which the Netherlands is known for. But as we've been highlighting, the devil lies in the details. So we'll know when the finer print is shared at around 4:30. There should be a press conference presided over by the Indian Foreign External Affairs Ministry, and we are expecting the Foreign Secretary also over there. So we'll have to see what the details are, how this will now shape up, and by when we can expect all of that paperwork to finally translate here. But more importantly, it is the emphasis which both the Indian and the European side have laid on this FTA. In fact, Antonio Costa has talked about how geopolitical stability can be achieved through trade, and that is exactly what India and EU are hoping to achieve. They are also hoping to rectify this very destabilized global political climate, and there is a talk of also how India and EU are now looking towards arranging the global order. And as Prime Minister Modi said, that there always comes a turning point in every era, and this EU India deal, which is not just going to be about FTA, but also security and defense partnership, but and even mobility partnership, is going to be that turning point. And this is where history will be changed, where India and EU will join hands to redefine the existing global order, which, remember, for the longest time has been dictated by the United States and is in fact bearing the brunt of Donald Trump's tariffs.
And Zaka, talking about global order, there was a mention of the Ukrainian issue. Do you think the conversation also veered towards it, because it was very, very starkly mentioned by Ms. von der Leyen that she has gone on to urge Prime Minister Narendra Modi to, in fact, look at creating conditions of peace when it is about Ukraine and Russia?
Well, the Prime Minister, as far back as 2022, had told Mr. Putin on the sidelines of the SCO summit that this is not the era of war, this is the era of peace. But the war continues, and despite all the efforts, including the efforts taken by President Donald Trump of the US, that war continues because I think the Russian calculation is that this will only end on the battlefield, and it will end with a decisive Russian military victory. It's going to be 4 years in February since this war began. Of course, this is a huge point of contention for Europe. It's the biggest war that European continent, the mainland continental Europe, has seen since the end of the Second World War. But at the same time, just in the last few weeks, they've also got a taste from the other side, which is Donald Trump going on and on about taking over Greenland, whether by, he did say at the Davos summit that he's not going to use military force, but that's the first time he clarified he's not going to use military force, but he's not giving up on his ambitions of basically just taking over the sovereign territory of another country. So when I asked Mr. Costa yesterday about the Greenland issue, he said that, look, we are very clear. Territorial integrity and sovereignty are, something that cannot be compromised with. It's part of the UN Charter. Whether it's in Greenland, whether it's in Ukraine, you cannot compromise with territorial integrity and sovereignty. And therefore, as far as Greenland is concerned, he said, the only people who can decide the future of Greenland when it comes to its sovereignty and territorial integrity are the Kingdom of Denmark and the people of Greenland themselves. No one else has any right over the territory of Greenland. So I think that same principle they want upheld on the question of Ukraine. On Ukraine, well, India has had a different position. India is, of course, in the multiple resolutions, whether it's in the UNSC or in the UN General Assembly. India has not voted against Russia in any of these resolutions because, frankly, they are non-binding, particularly the General Assembly resolutions. It's more, putting moral pressure on Mr. Putin to try and end the war. But it seems like the calculation has been made. Mr. Putin realizes, the Russian side realizes that they have the battlefield advantage, and they will press on with that battlefield advantage until there is a decisive military victory and the objectives of this special military operation have been achieved. This has been, like I said, there are differences between India and the European Union on this issue as well. But I think somewhere it's gotten sort of pushed back into the back burner because of the Trump tariffs and the upending of the global trade order, and also, this whole carving up of the world into spheres of influence that seems to be the now prevailing thinking within the Trump administration and also in the Department of War. And more importantly, I think middle powers are realizing that they need to come together and save their trading relationships, save their security partnership. I also want to underline, the defense and security partnership, that agreement that was signed today is significant because Europe has always had this idea that, look, if it's in the Indo-Pacific, it's too far away from us. We don't really, care about what China is doing, whether in the East or South China Seas. That can't be the case anymore because, if America is using its own hegemonic role in the Western Hemisphere, what's going to stop China from doing the same here in the Eastern Hemisphere? What's going to stop Xi Jinping from militarily making a move at Taiwan? These are moves that will have devastating global consequences, and Europe has realized that look, we need to take a stand. So I think this defense and security partnership, something that Europe had been loath to getting into, particularly